Welcome back to my channel, and today's topic of discussion is minerals and energy resources. So when we say mineral, it is a very important and inseparable component of our life, because everything in use in our day-to-day life includes mineral, and also it helps us for the functioning of the body. So when we come to mineral, we all know that it is a naturally occurring substances and it have a definite chemical composition which is found homogeneously in the nature. And it can be found in varied forms, like from hardest to softest. Softest example you can take as of the talcum powder, and the hardest is one diamond. So these are the characteristics of minerals. Now you know that minerals, as I mentioned already, it is indispensable for our our life. It cannot be separated from our life, because almost everything we use in our day-to-day life, it does have mineral content. For example, a tiny pin to the railway lines, to the roads, to the machineries, cars, buses, trains, aeroplanes, everything is manufactured from minerals. So even the food which we consume, there also minerals are used for the sustenance, or you can say for decoration purposes, religious ceremonies, etc. Even the toothpaste which we take, okay, which we use for cleansing our teeth, even that, okay, there we have abrasive minerals, like we have silica, limestone, aluminium oxide, and many other phosphate minerals. So fluoride is used to reduce the cavities, okay, and it comes from mineral fluoride. So we intake only 0.3% of minerals, but in our but that is very important. This 0.3% is very important for functioning of the remaining system for the body. So thus this is the importance of mineral. Now minerals occur in different modes. First of all, you can see in the screen that it occurs in igneous and metamorphic rock, sedimentary rocks by decomposition of surface rocks as alluvial deposits, and in ocean water. So minerals are actually found in ores. Now what is ore? You can find ore inside the rock, okay? By drilling and some other methods, we can extract the minerals from the ores. Minerals are not directly associated, not directly found from rocks, but from the ores we can extract it. So ore is very important, and it is like an accumulation of any mineral which is mixed with other element. A rock might have one or more than one mineral, it depends. So coming to the point, the mode of occurrence. First of all, in igneous and metamorphic rock, minerals occur in the cracks. I think you have visualized that in the rocks we have certain cracks and certain crevices, faults, or joints. So the smaller cracks, or where the minerals are deposited, they are known as veins, and the larger one is known as lodes. So minerals can be found in igneous and metamorphic rock only in gaseous or liquid form, as because it is found in the cracks and joints, so definitely it cannot be found in solid form. Example I can give you about zinc, copper, lead, etc. Now next we have the sedimentary rock. In sedimentary rock, mineral occur in solid form. It occurs in beds or layers. Igneous and metamorphic rock, it does not occur in gaseous or liquid form, or neither it occurs in the cracks or joints, but it occurs in the beds or layers. So it can be found in horizontal form. They are formed because of the deposition, accumulation, and concentration in the horizontal strata. So coal and some other forms of iron are concentrated as a result of long period under great heat and pressure. Example of such minerals which are found in sedimentary rocks are gypsum, potash, salt, and sodium salt. Because of evaporation, when evaporation takes place, only then such minerals can be extracted. Now next is one by decomposition of surface rocks. So here, because of the removal of soluble constituents, which leaves a residual mass of weathered material which contain ores from their minerals, extracted. Bauxite is formed in by the decomposition of surface rocks. Next we have as alluvial deposit. So here in sandy valleys or in valley floors or in the base of the hill, these minerals occur, and they are also called as placer deposits, which contain minerals and they are not corroded by water. Example of such minerals which are extracted from alluvial deposits are gold, silver, tin, platinum, etc. And the last one is in ocean water. So here minerals are found in huge quantity, but these are also very important for the economic significance. Example of such minerals are salt, magnesium, bromine, etc. So here we have discussed about the different mode of occurrence of minerals, and India is very abundant of natural mineral resources and it is unevenly distributed in India. So specifically in the peninsular rocks, they have reserves of coal, metallic minerals, mica and many other non-metallic minerals. Whereas in the western and eastern flanks of peninsula, in the sedimentary rocks, there is deposition of minerals in places of Gujarat, Assam. They have deposition of petroleum deposits, while in Rajasthan they have rock systems of the peninsula which have reserves of non-ferrous minerals. Certain parts of the alluvial plains of North India we also find a variety of minerals. So here we have the variation of existence of varieties of minerals in different places, and we all know how the land masses form in class 9. Already you have studied the physical distribution of the physiography of India. So there you have definitely understood the characteristics of different physiographic divisions, and because of this we have the variety of land masses, and hence we have the deposition of a vast resources of minerals. Now next we will discuss about the classification of minerals. So under minerals we have three types of subdivisions, that is metallic minerals, non-metallic minerals and energy minerals. Under metallic minerals we have three types of subdivisions, that is ferrous mineral, non-ferrous mineral and precious mineral. So this chart is already there in your NCERT book. You can refer to that for better understanding. Now let us distinguish between metallic and non-metallic minerals. Metallic minerals contain metals, whereas non-metallic minerals do not contain metals. Metallic minerals do have shine on their own, but non-metallic minerals do not have their shine of their own. Metallic minerals are associated with igneous rocks, whereas non-metallic minerals are associated with sedimentary rocks. Metallic minerals are ductile in nature, but non-metallic minerals are not ductile and they can be broken upon a collision. Metallic mineral can be extracted by melting minerals, but non-metallic mineral do not yield new products upon melting. So this is the comparison or the distinguishing between metallic minerals and non-metallic minerals, which is of course very important to know. Now next topic, the distinguishing between ferrous minerals and non-ferrous minerals. Ferrous minerals, as the name says, there is the content of iron, whereas non-ferrous minerals do not contain iron. Ferrous minerals except stainless steel are corrosive, but non-ferrous minerals. So this is the comparison or the distinguishing between metallic minerals and non-metallic minerals, which is of course very important to know. Now next topic, the distinguishing between ferrous minerals and non-ferrous minerals. Ferrous minerals, as the name says, there is the content of iron, whereas non-ferrous minerals do not contain iron. Ferrous minerals except stainless steel are corrosive, but non-ferrous minerals are non-corrosive. Ferrous minerals do have some magnetic properties, but non-ferrous minerals do not have any kind of magnetic properties. Ferrous minerals are not very expensive because they have a tremendous higher supply, but non-ferrous minerals are expensive because they have a reduced supply. Ferrous minerals are mostly weight metals, whereas non-ferrous minerals are low weight metals. So this is the distinguishing between ferrous minerals and non-ferrous minerals, which is of course also very important to know. Now next we will discuss one by one only the important ferrous minerals. So First of all, the iron ore. Iron ore is the basic mineral and it is known as the backbone of an industrial development found. Now next come non-ferrous minerals. Already we have discussed the properties of non-ferrous mineral. So first of all we will discuss about copper. So copper is not very highly found in India. The reserves are very less in India compared to other non-ferrous resources, and it is malleable, ductile and is a good conductor. It is used in electrical cables, electronics and chemical industries. Balaghat mine in Madhya Pradesh, Khetri mines in Rajasthan and Singhbhum district of Jharkhand, these are the leading producers of copper. Other than that, there are many places in Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, etc. Next we have bauxite, and India is very abundant in this resource. India have good quality iron ore. Magnetite is the finest quality iron ore which contain up to 70% of iron, and it is have an excellent magnetic capacity quality, especially which is valuable in electrical industries. Hematite is also very important, and the iron content is 50 to 60%. So different places where iron ore mines are located are Andhra Pradesh, Goa, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, West Bengal, Orissa, Chhattisgarh, etc. So here is the different belts or different regions where iron ore deposition are distributed. The major iron ore belts in India are Orissa Jharkhand belt, Dark Bastar Chandrapur belt, Ballari Chitradurga Chikmagaluru Tumakuru belt, and Maharashtra Goa belt, which is highlighted with circles. Next come manganese. So manganese is mainly used for manufacturing steel and ferromanganese alloy. Approximately 10 kg of manganese is required to manufacture 1 ton of steel. So it is also used for manufacturing bleaching powder, insecticide and paints. Manganese is very important for alloys. So here you can see that different states like Goa, Shimoga, Nagpur, Bhandara, Balaghat, Amarkantak, Bilaspur, Kendujhar, Sundargarh, Hazirabad. So these are the different fields where is a non-ferrous mineral, and aluminium is extracted from bauxite. It is a clay-like substance which is known as alumina, and later aluminium is extracted from it. So here aluminium is very important metal because when we combine it, it strengthens the quality of the metal. For example, iron with extreme lightness, and also it is a good conductivity and also have a great malleability character. So Indian deposits, as you can see in the map, here we have the deposition of bauxite mines in several places like Jamnagar, Bilaspur, Raigarh, and also Amarkantak Plateau, Maikal Hills and Bilaspur Katni region. So this is the distribution of bauxite mines in India. Also, Orissa was one of the largest bauxite producing state in India. Then Panchpatmali deposit is there in Gorakhpur district, which is also very important deposit in the state. Now next comes the non-metallic minerals. So when it comes to the non-metallic minerals, we have different minerals like mica, limestone, dolomite, asbestos, magnesite and kyanite. So first of all, a mica is made up of a series of plates or leaves. When we split it into thin sheets, thousands of sheets can be taken out. So the color of mica can be clear, can be black, green, red, yellow or brown. It depends. And also it is a very good or you can say excellent dielectric strength it does have, with low power loss factor, insulating properties, and also it is resistant to high voltage. Mica is an indispensable mineral and it is used in electric and electronic industries. Like you can see in the map given here, mica can be found in northern edge of Chotanagpur Plateau, Kodarma Gaya Hazarabad belt of Jharkhand, etc. In Rajasthan also, mica is produced near Ajmer. Nellore mica belt is there in Andhra Pradesh, which is also a leading producer in the country. Next we have limestone. Limestone is a rock mineral which is associated with rocks which is composed of calcium carbonate or calcium and magnesium carbonates. So because of geological formation in the sedimentary rock, these are found. It is the basic raw material for cement industry, and also it is very, very important for smelting iron ore in the blast furnace. Then coming to the next point, very, very important, the exploitation of minerals. People are using the mineral at such a rate because of which these are being exploited, and we all know if we keep the pace, if we do not stop the pace of exploiting the minerals once upon, or already we are facing such a situation where the minerals are getting extinct, or you can say they are getting degraded day by day. We exploit the resource like anything. So we need to stop exploitation because conservation of mineral is very, very important. No industry cannot run without mineral. They are totally dependent of the mineral, and even in agriculture also mineral products are used, and the total volume of workable mineral deposits is very insignificant fraction. Only 1% of the earth's crust is available to us, so we are consuming it like anything. And we all know that yes, of course minerals will regenerate, but it requires thousands or millions of years to recreate it, or you can say to get back, to recycle, to reform again. So because we all know that the geological process by which the minerals are actually formed after millions of years, these are very, very slow, which a human life cannot. Because we can say that minerals are finite and it is non-renewable, because a human life cannot use it at one lifespan, or we cannot see it regeneration in one lifespan. So yes, of course India is very, very blessed to have valuable minerals, but yes, of course they are short-lived possessions. So if we continue the extraction of minerals at such a pace, then obviously the quality will also decrease, and of course the quantity. So conservation is very, very important. So conservation of minerals can be done only if proper planning is there and in a sustainable way. We already discussed it in the first chapter, how sustainable or sustainability helps us to restore the resources. So there are many hi-fi technologies, or we have advanced technologies which will definitely allow us to use these minerals at a low cost or at a low pace. So we need to do recycling of metals, we need to use the scrap metals and also the substitutes by which we can conserve our minerals for the future. So we have to do recycle, reuse and reduce. Now next topic is energy resource. So energy is required for everything, even we do need. So energy are extracted for fuel minerals, or they can be generated from fuel minerals. For example, we have coal, petroleum, natural gas, from where we generate electricity. And we have two types of energy resources. One is conventional resource, another one is non-conventional resource. Now let us know the comparison between conventional and non-conventional resources. So conventional resources are used for a long time, since a long time we are using it, but non-conventional resources are a development of recent past. And conventional resources are exhaustible except water, whereas non-conventional resources are inexhaustible. Conventional resource causes pollution, whereas non-conventional resource do not cause any kind of pollution. Expensive. Okay, conventional resources are very expensive to maintain, store and transmit, but compared to conventional, non-conventional resources are less expensive. Conventional resources meets a major portion of our requirement, whereas non-conventional resources meets our requirement only on a limited scale. For example, conventional resources are petrol, coal, etc. Non-conventional examples are solar energy, wind energy, tidal energy. Comparison between conventional and non-conventional resources. Now let us come to the very important and topmost energy resource, that is coal, conventional energy resource. So coal is abundantly used in India in all the industries, for running machines, for electricity, everywhere we use coal. So obviously the reason it is available abundantly in India, and it is used as a substantial part of the nation's energy, and for generation of power, to supply energy to the industries, and even for domestic needs we use it. For commercial energy requirement also coal is used. So coal is formed because of the compression of plant material over millions of years. So therefore, depending on the degree of compression actually, and the depth, the quality and the time of burial, the quality of coal actually enhances. So by the decaying of plants in swamp, which produces peat, it like we have variety of coal type. Like we have like the low carbon and high moisture content and low heating capacity. Lignite is a low grade brown coal. It is soft with high moisture content. Principal lignite reserves are found in Neyveli in Tamil Nadu, and it is used for generation of electricity. Coal is buried deep and subjected increased temperature, which is bituminous coal. It is very popular for commercial use. Metallurgical coal is high grade bituminous coal. Highest quality hard coal. Okay, so we have different types of coal I have mentioned already, that is anthracite, bituminous, lignite and peat. Now in India coal occurs in rock series of two geological ages. The two geological ages are Gondwana and Tertiary. So we have, depending on it, the variety of coals are found here, and like we have tertiary coals which are found in Meghalaya, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh and Nagaland, whereas the Gondwana coal, which is our metallurgical coal, they are found in West Bengal, Jharkhand area, Jharia, Raniganj, Bokaro, etc. Now next we have petroleum. So petroleum, or it is also called as mineral oil, is the next major or important after coal, like a fuel which is used in India. It provides fuel for heating and lighting, lubricants, machinery and raw materials, etc. Petroleum refineries, they are called as the nodal industry, especially for synthetic fiber, textile industries, fertilizer industries and chemical industries. So petroleum occurrences are associated with anticlines and fault traps, especially in the tertiary age. Because of the folding anticlines or domes, oil is trapped in the crest of the upfold. So petroleum is found in between porous and non-porous rocks. So gas, which is lighter, usually occurs above the oil, which is called as the natural gas. So 63% of India's petroleum are produced in Mumbai High. 18% are from Gujarat, 16% from Assam. Ankleshwar have the major oil field in India of Gujarat, and Assam is the oldest field, or you can say oldest oil producing state. Assam in Digboi, Naharkatia, Moran, Hugrijan, etc. Next we have natural gas. So natural gas is a clean energy resource. It is used as a source of energy and also as an industrial raw material for petrochemical industries. Natural gas is environmental free, pollution free, and it have low carbon dioxide emission. There are many regions of natural gas occurrence like Krishna, Godavari basin. Then we have Mumbai High and the allied fields of Gulf of Cambay. Approximately 700 kilometer long Hazira Vijaypur Jagdishpur pipeline is there, which links Mumbai High and Bassein with the fertilizer power industrial complexes in western and northern India. So, use of CNG for vehicles is essential to replace liquid fuels, which is gaining wide popularity in India. Next, we have electricity. So, electricity is a wide range application in today's world. Like per capita consumption is very high in India, and it is generated mainly by two ways: running water, which is generated from hydroelectricity and by burning fuels such as coal, petroleum, natural gas, and by like thermal power. So these are the two main processes through which electricity is generated in India. Hydroelectricity is generated from fast flowing water and it is a renewable resource. We have Bhakra Nangal Dam, Damodar Valley Corporation, Kopili Hydel etc. project, hydroelectricity project. Then we have thermal electricity, which is generated by coal, petroleum and natural gas. And we have approximately 310 thermal power plants in India. Next, we have the non-conventional sources of energy. Already I have mentioned the characteristics of non-conventional sources of energy. We have abundance of sunlight, water, wind, biomass in India, and it obviously we do not find equally all of these resources everywhere in India. In different regions, different sources are found abundantly. Next, we have solar energy. So as we know, India is a tropical country, so we can trap the solar energy through photovoltaic technology, and solar energy is very popular, especially in rural and remote areas. So big solar power plants are established in different parts of India so that rural household or firewood and dung cakes use can be reduced, and definitely it will contribute to environmental conservation also, and also it helps in the manure in agriculture. So next we have the wind energy. So wind energy is have a great potential in India, especially in the coastal areas. So Tamil Nadu, from Nagarkoli to Madurai, we have the cluster of wind farms. Then Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Gujarat, Kerala, Maharashtra, Lakshadweep, they have important wind farms. Nagarcoil and Jaisalmer, they have used excessive amount of wind energy in India, which is definitely helping to contribute to the conservation of environment in India. Next, we have biogas. So shrubs, farm waste, animal and human waste are used to produce biogas. It is very organic, which yield gas, and it exaggerate thermal efficiency in comparison, like high amount of thermal efficiency in comparison to kerosene, dung cake and charcoal. Gobar gas plants are planted in rural area so that it actually benefits farmer also, and it have a twin benefit actually. First of all, it improves the quality of manure, and also it, since independence, the amount of energy which we are using, it's been increasing, and as a result the consumption of energy is actually increasing all over the country, maybe in rural or in urban area. So we need to conserve our energy in a sustainable way. So energy conservation awareness must be promoted by using renewable energy resources instead of non-renewable energy resources. Individuals in this country must conserve energy resources by their own way, obviously by using potential public transport system instead of using individual vehicles, by switching off electricity whenever not necessary, by using water efficiently, by using power saving devices, and by using all non-conventional sources of energy, because we all know energy saved is energy produced. So we all can produce energy by saving energy. So that is all for this chapter, my dear students. Thank you.